So I look at the Tyreek Hill thing, and it's just unbelievable to me. Literally overnight, Amari Cooper got you a 5th rounder. 2 weeks later, Tyreek Hill gets you 5 picks. It does seem excessive to me. I'm sorry. That's what you get for quarterbacks. Am I sound too old school?
No, I don't think so, Colin. I felt the same way. When I saw the value of what they got for Tyreek Hill, I thought the trade was pretty easy to make. I mean, again, yes, a super explosive player, can change the game, could do all these different things. They already have Jalen Waddle, who's doing a lot of great stuff for them down in Miami. But I don't see this being the piece for the Dolphins that are going to put them over the top. And I don't see this being the straw that breaks the camel's back in terms of the Kansas City Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are still going to be in an unbelievably talented division, are still going to be the cream of the crop in the West. And so I like this move for Kansas City. I don't not like having Tyreek Hill on a football team, but there's just so many different parts of this. And the number one thing is when you get a 1, 2, 4, 4, and a 5, that's a good trade for a wide receiver.
Yeah. Oh my God. I mean, when I saw it yesterday, I was just like 5. Russell Wilson got 5 picks. Now they weren't as good, but I mean, a 1st and a 2nd for a wide receiver is almost unheard of. And then they added 3 more picks. And they also got it off the book. So they got cap room now. So DK Metcalf. So it's interesting. As a body, there's nothing like him in the league. He looks like a defensive end. There is value there. It looks like Seattle wants picks. They're rebuilding. Russell, Metcalf get a bunch of picks, which they need to rebuild. This is a bad roster. So from Seattle's point, I get it. So if you were Green Bay or Kansas City, he is a player you could use. If you're Kansas City, do you go get him again? Do you just say, hey, we lost one guy. We're going to get a little cheaper guy who actually is a body mismatch, like Tyreek was a speed mismatch?
You know, I think in Kansas City situation, I wouldn't. I think I would rather go to the draft with Kansas City and where they sit and where they're going to be picking in the draft. Because this draft, once again, just like every year, seems like it's got a lot of wide receivers. This draft has another group of wide receivers that are really talented. And I think you can find some London Drake could be a great example of a guy you can get early, somewhere in the 1st round, maybe a little bit later, and you put him on your football team, and suddenly you're going to get a mismatch there too because of how good I think he was in college before he got banged up. You know him very well, Colin.
Yeah.
So, but I think I go to the draft in Green Bay. I look at it different. I think you've got a shorter window there, obviously with Aaron Rodgers in X amount of years.
Yeah.
You know, you put the number 1 back in there. I think Metcalf makes more sense in Green Bay than it would for me in Kansas City.
Okay, that makes sense then. Yeah, and they're more desperate, by the way, even though it's a weak division, a much weaker division. You look at the Rams and the Bucs in the NFC, they have got multiple top receivers. All right, Matt Ryan to the Colts. I feel like I said this yesterday, joking. I said, everybody said Matty Ice is old. And I'm like, he was old when he was 27. He's never been young and dynamic. I used Gene Hackman, the actor, as an example. I said, when Gene Hackman was in his 30s, he played 48 years old on the screen. He was never Ryan Gosling. So he aged very gracefully. Matt Ryan isn't that different than he was 7 years ago to me. I think he is declining, but I think it's not a Big Ben off a cliff thing, right?
No, I don't think it's going to be anything like that. And I think the Colts also look at this as a chance to, like they did with Phillip Rivers, put a veteran quarterback into this roster and see if they can get you to the postseason. And you've got to do something in the AFC. And it wasn't going to be Baker Mayfield. And I don't know what's going to happen with Jimmy Garoppolo, obviously with the shoulder surgery, but I don't even know if he's going to get out of San Francisco. I think Kyle Shanahan might want to keep him for one more year, especially at that price. So they had to do something at quarterback to have a chance to even get a wild card spot. Now they get Matt Ryan, and I think that gives them an opportunity to, again, put him around these players, put him around Michael Pittman, Jonathan Taylor, around that offensive line, maybe get an offensive tackle in the draft and really kind of go to work. I think the Colts made a good move here in terms of solidifying a position and getting a lot of experience because you're going to need that to navigate the South.
So it's interesting. There's a lot of quarterbacks with new teams. Marcus Mariota can't stay healthy. Somebody signed him. Trubisky, limited arm talent. Somebody signed him. Deshaun Watson, 22 civil cases. Somebody signed him. Matt Ryan, kind of a pocket guy only. Older. Somebody signed him. Carson Wentz, wildly inconsistent. Somebody signed him. You can't tell me Baker Mayfield's not one of the 32 most talented quarterbacks in the world, and there's no market. Is this a cautionary tale of likability? I know fans think it doesn't matter. The ability, this is what got Jay Cutler out of the league. The lack of the ability to get along with coaches and teammates. Is it just that simple for Baker? Because you can't convince me there's 32 other quarterbacks in America more talented than Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot to be said with what you're talking about. And I think Baker Mayfield, I think he presents himself that way. He's kind of done it since the beginning when he, it was trying to be fun, but it was almost to a point where you're like, I'm not so sure I get this guy, whether it's the Brett Favre photo of him trying to like reenact something. It's the commercials and the constant commercials. You just wonder if there's a lot of executives out there, head coaches that are wondering like, how important is football to him? And I think Baker loves football. But I also think that, the reason why there's no market is, number one, it's $18 million. Maybe the Browns have to pay for some of that. Number two, we're kind of running down and lower on the totem pole in terms of like finding that quarterback. I think the one team to me that makes the most sense is put him in Seattle with Pete Carroll, with John Schneider, and see what they can do with him in Seattle. But you're not going to get value for him because I just don't think there's a lot of people in the market to sit there and say, I'm sure this is the piece. That's where Carson Wentz gets that opportunity because everybody loves Carson Wentz if you meet him. Baker Mayfield's kind of gotten a different polarizing feel and an opinion, and I think that's absolutely coming back to haunt him.
Yeah. Anybody else had an offseason you like?
Well, I mean, look, we can beat up the Deshaun Watson trade all you want. We can talk about the civil lawsuits and everything like that. When you got a chance to get a quarterback that's a top 3, top 4 quarterback in the National Football League, could be the number 1 quarterback in the NFL, you go do it. And I understand the contract was tremendous and the owner had to write a huge check to be able to get this Deshaun Watson deal completely done. But now it's a destination spot, much like what we're seeing with other locations like Tampa was able to be with Tom Brady. People want to get to Cleveland, so I think this is going to only help Cleveland along the way. And so I think Cleveland, because of this quarterback, to change their dynamic in that division specifically because of Lamar Jackson and you're trying to get through him, or certainly Joe Burrow, Cleveland just put themselves at the top of the class in an unbelievably talented AFC quarterback pool.
Good stuff. Mark Dominik, 20 years of doing this stuff. Good seeing you again.
Great to see you, Colin, man.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.